evening, everybody. Welcome along. I declare this meeting open. I acknowledge the Honourable John Castrulli, MLA, Member for Bunbury. Welcome to you, John, and welcome to members of the public. Under announcements, talking about Mr Castrulli, last week the CEO and I attended a grant cheque handover from the Honourable John Castrulli from Lotteries West for the sum of $71,000 to go towards the fishing platform construction along the old timber jetty causeway. And I acknowledge the terrific work that Mr Kerry Trantham has done and continues to do and will do for that very worthwhile project. We have Councillor Steele is on leave, and there is a request from Councillor Steck. Is someone prepared to move that we give her leave for that period?
So moved.
It's carried unanimously. Thank you. Declarations of interest. I have a declaration from Councillor Prosser on item 10.4.2. It's a financial interest, as he is a beneficiary of a family trust that is financially associated with the Citygate Properties, which is the landowner. Are there any further declarations of interest, councillors? Thank you. Confirmation of previous minutes. Someone prepared to move? Councillor Cook, Councillor Hayward, all in favour? Those against, that's carried unanimously. Thank you. Councillors, are there any petitions? We have received a request to present to item 10.4.2 this evening from Mr Kotsoglo. Those who are agreeable to that presentation, please indicate. Those who are not, that's approved, if he gets here. So, councillors, dealing with the items tonight, the only item that we will take out is 10.4.2 due to Councillor Prosser's financial interest. Are there any other items that anyone wants to discuss? Councillor Jones. 10.2.3. Anything else? Can I have someone move the balance? Councillor Cook.
Mr Mayor.
Councillor McCleary. All in favour? That's carried unanimously. Thank you. Yes, councillor, we go to 10.23. Can I have someone move that? Councillor Kelly, Councillor McCleary. Councillor Jones, do you wish to... You're asking a question, you're speaking against it?
I'll be speaking against the motion, Mr Mayor.
Okay, just take a seat. Thanks. Councillor Kelly. Okay, Councillor McCleary, do you wish to speak at this time?
Yes, Mr Mayor, just very briefly. I'm reassured that we're going to, number three in there, request a review of the strategic directions for the Alliance prior to March 2016. So that makes me happy to vote for this motion.
Okay, thanks. Speaker against, Councillor Jones.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Yes, I've yet to be assured that we'll be getting value for money. I'm a great admirer of the work of the Bunbury Wellington group of councils. I don't believe in duplicating the work or the effort from any of these groups, that sometimes we have to make a subscription and those we don't. Admire the work of the South West Development Commission, and we don't actually contribute to their being other than through our taxes. So this is a less than two-person group, and I wonder whether we're really getting value for money. I would have hoped that there would have been some review of the strategic direction before this came before council. I understand that the document is available, but I'm not convinced that given the other organisations that contribute to the well-being of the city, that we should be contributing in this manner.
Thanks, Councillor Jones. Speaker 4. Councillor Kelly.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Firstly, acknowledging the work that the Bunbury-Wellington Economic Alliance has done over quite some years. There's no doubt that that has been a valuable networking process and with some runs on the board over the year. I won't go into the full story of their history. I believe that the important thing here is that we've got the opportunity, that we have the opportunity to ensure that the review is done appropriately by the CEOs of the local government authorities and ensure that whatever the case may be at the end of the day, it's gone through the appropriate process one way or the other. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thanks, Councillor Kelly. I'll put it all in favour, please indicate. Those against? That's carried. So against were Councillor Jones, Morris, Prosser and Miguel, and the rest were in favour. We move to item 10.4.2, Councillor Prosser. I wasn't stalling for you, Mr Kotsoglo, but I was just as well for you I did, because you're on.
I was nervous, I was waiting in the car. Mr Mayor, Councillors, item 10.4.2. Thank you again for making the time, and it's a simple matter. This is a matter of whether or not Council considers the predominant activity to be the sale of bulky goods with incidental and ancillary sale of other items. We have circulated to councillors and staff over the last weekend a document which outlines modifications that were made from the original proposals, and we have requested Council support the application and make some minor modifications to the recommendation that's presented. In summary, the proponent is investing well in excess of $1.5 million in the setup, establishment and operation of the facility. They will employ 20 people plus some additional service staff and professionals, and they will contribute substantially to the local economy. We note, and we have circulated previously to Council, the definitions of the terms, and the terms being shop, showroom and warehouse for Council's consideration. And those councillors that have arduously read all the submissions, all the documents prepared by staff and my office, will note that there is no specific definition of the amount of showroom, the amount of or size of or the weight of a bulky good, and we say the Council has entire discretion to make its decision on what it considers to be an appropriate land use to get an approval in the mixed business area. I would ask the Council today consider the implications of granting the approval. There is, of course, what seems to be a threat hanging over the head of Council that somebody might complain about it. Having been a Council officer, that's always there. There are always people sniping over the trenches and suggesting that things may or may not be right. And you as councillors know that every decision you make is always subject to review. We ask that Council support this business, support confidence in the City of Bunbury, and grant the approval with the modest modifications that we have asked for in the applicant's alternate recommendation. Thank you. I'll catch my breath now.
Thank you, Mr Kotsoglo. Councillors, do I have someone prepared? Councillor Kelly?
Yes, I do. wish to move the alternate recommendation on page 25, Mr Mayor, and I also wish to add an L to that.
And
But I'll make the second, I think is appropriate.
that's with the L added to it. So, just to clarify, councillors, that L has been recommended by our planning director to add in there. Is that our understanding?
That's my understanding also, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Kelly?
Thanks, Mr Mayor. And thanks to Mr Costello making that journey. It must have been a quick trip down the freeway. Councillors, we've had a fair thrashing on this particular item over time. I think we're all familiar with the definitions that have been given to us and the hard work that's been provided by our staff to ensure that we get our heads around what is not necessarily a simple matter. I want to allude firstly to the 20%. I think that there's been quite a bit of chat in amongst ourselves about how we can best draw a line for the operations of this business at this particular venue, and somewhere along the line decisions need to be made, and they need to be made at this level. We are the governors and we need to make a decision and stick by it. The 20% seems to me to be a very even figure, I suppose. I don't think there's anybody going to argue about 19 or 21, as the case may be. I think it's fairly safe to say that what we're trying to do is establish this business in the city of Bunbury to make sure that it's successful and giving a clear set of parameters under which they can operate. And that's my intent and that's my reading of this particular item. I've suggested that L is added because it adds a little bit of more rigour to what exactly it is that we're asking of the businesses they come into town, and they are most welcome in this town, I might add, more the merrier. So what I'm saying is that the work that's been put into this resolution, recommendation, over quite some time has now reached a point where we are able to make a decision according to the good advice that we've received from our planning staff and the efforts that have been made to get something on the table so that we can say, right, here is the line, here is what we're approving, and that's what we need to do tonight, Mr Mayor, is approve the resolution, the alternate resolution, and adding L to give some security on compliance and governance. And maybe in the future, just as an afterword, Mr Mayor, there'll be a discussion somewhere out there in town planning world, the West Australian Planning Commission or Town Plan 8, wherever it happens, that may change things in the future. But at the moment, we have a town plan, we act within it, and I think this gives security for not only the people who intend to move there, but also our staff as that they know where we stand. So I encourage councillors to vote for this particular resolution, and we welcome the business to Bunbury. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kelly. Councillor Cleary.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Council, there's been a great deal of dialogue and discussion with this change of use application, and I'm pleased that the business wishes to settle in the Bunbury area. I have noted in all the correspondence the city has always been ready and waiting to approve the application subject to certain conditions and guidelines laid down by the local and the state government planning regulations. These regulations apply to everyone and are imperative to ensure orderly and proper planning for all towns or cities in the WA. We cannot prevent any business to trade in any area without good reason, and the regulation states 20% of retail is fair and reasonable in this precinct. Other businesses in the area are complying. This is what is required in this recommendation. The key to the front door for Sports Power to trade at Unit 3, Lot 50115 Sandridge Road is right here in black and white. All that needs to be done is for you to vote yes. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cleary. Is there a speaker against or other questions? Question, Councillor Hayward.
I'm just a bit concerned about how loose L is. My question is, big, large polystyrene surfboard a bulky item or not?
I think we could probably parry questions all night on what is and what isn't. I think the intent here, and I'll ask the CEO to comment in a minute, and he may call on the Director of Planning to do so. The intent here is to give some guidance to what is a bulky good. And even though a weight of 10 kilograms is mentioned, there's also the other one says, or where a normal person would require assistance. So I'm not sure what assistance would be required and what constitutes a normal person. And I think that's the degree of difficulty we have with all of this. So I'm asking for everybody to apply a good dose of common sense, if there is that still abounding. I know Councillor Jones once said that common sense ain't that common, but and I'm sorry if I'm misquoting you, Councillor Jones. So it's difficult, Councillor Hayward, but CEO, do you have any clever words? Do you have any clever words, Director of Planning?
Through you, Mr Mayor, we had discussed this in the office, and we made a comparison between a boogie board and a surfboard, and we would believe that a surfboard, if it is 10 kilograms or more, it would be bulky, whereas a boogie board presumably is not a bulky item.
Councillor Cook.
Mr Mayor, I'd like to move an amendment to the motion, if I may.
Sure.
Thank you. Mr Mayor, I'd like, under condition C, to take out the words incidental accessories and items and replace them with apparel and footwear. And under item D, change the reference to 1A, and also remove the words only occur within the floor area of 174.8 square metres, 20%, and is 2. And under item F, remove the words service desks. Mr Mayor, I seek a seconder for this amendment.
So do I, Councillor Cook. Is there a seconder? Councillor Miguel. Councillor Cook.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Councillors, the reason I've moved the amendment is to try and provide some clarity as to the requirements here. And my fear is that without these changes, it will be untenable for the proponent anyway. So, councillors, I'd urge you to support the amendment. Thank you.
Councillor Miguel. Speaker against the amendment. Councillor Kelly.
Yes, Mr Mayor. Look, I suppose the sweat and the tears over this application that's been shed by our staff to try and get this right has gone on for long enough. The changes that Councillor Cook is proposing are straight out of the consultant's logbook. We are obliged to ensure that we get our advice from our staff, and that's exactly what I intend to do here. I won't support those amendments. I think that we've had enough discussion at briefing, opportunities to ring our Chief of Planning, to ensure that we're on the right path here, and I'll be sticking by our staff and what they've recommended here. I think that they've done a lot of good work to ensure that we've got surety for our staff, and let's face it, we're looking at the entire planning crew here to make sure that they can write things up for us, do the research. We employ them professionally to do that, and we're obliged to listen to them. Sure, we do take we listen to a lot of people in the community a lot of the time, but in this case, in a matter of pure planning, I think it's incumbent upon us to listen to the staff, and I won't be supporting the amendment. I'll be supporting the resolution as has been called initially. Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Speaker for the amendment. Councillor Cook, respond.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. No, just briefly, I do urge support of councillors for the amendments. I'm very keen indeed to support the executive and the recommendations they want, but I'm also very keen to ensure that business is welcome into Bunbury without too many conditions. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. I'll just pause for a minute, councillors. We'll just wait for Katie to get this. We all know because we've been given this information previously, but our audience is not aware of it. Just take your time, Katie. Okay, so We're all clear, councillors, on Councillor Cook's amendment. Those in favour, please indicate. Those against, that's lost. Revert back to the original. Is there a speaker against the original? Councillor Kelly, do you wish to close?
Just to say, this has been quite a long process, Mr Mayor, and I appreciate the work that's been done on it by staff and also indeed the proponent, and also for the application that Council has put across to this one. It's been a complicated process, and I guess planning is a bit like that. So thanks, Mr Mayor.
All in favour of the motion, please indicate. Those against, that's carried unanimously. Thank you, councillors. We'll just get Councillor Prosser back in the room. Thank you, councillors. I declare this meeting closed at 5:51 p.m. Thank you very much to the audience and staff for attending as well. Thank you.